Well, hey there, everybody. It's Chris from the Rate the Record podcast. It's supposed to be Savannah this week, but she got sick. So I'm kind of just forcing my way in here right now to do another NMR. My second week in a row doing this. I've done it before. I can do it again. I've heard 3 new songs because, there's new music being released all the time. So why wouldn't I hear 3 new songs? I've heard them. I want you to check them out too. I want to talk about them with you and let you know my thoughts on them. I want to hear yours. But in order to do that, we should start talking about it now. So let's get into it. She's sick, and I might be a little bit sick. I don't know. Maybe a cold something. I don't know. It's pretty light, so I'm not too worried about it. By the way, if you're wondering why I'm wearing a hat, because I never usually do, well, I'm having bad hair days, and I'm waiting for my next paycheck to get a haircut. So until then, we deal with the hat. It's a Nine Inch Nails hat anyway, so it's good stuff. So first up today, we have the band Idols, which we actually just did an episode on our podcast for Idols. Back this past Monday, episode 94, we looked at their album Joy as an Act of Resistance. So this is pretty fresh when this is happening right now, and perfect timing for it. It wasn't planned like this, so I love this. But Idols is a post-punk band, indie rock band, punk band, many classifications, but they're out of Bristol, England, and they've been around since 2009, and they've released 4 full-length studio albums in that time, and they just announced as of October 18th that they have a 5th studio album on the way in February called Tank. And the first taste of that album that we got alongside with the announcement of the album is a brand new song called Dancer featuring members of the LCD Sound System. Did I say the LCD Sound System? I just meant what I said minus the word the. How about that? So this song has been teased for a couple of weeks now that they were going to drop the single on the 18th, but we didn't know about the album being announced, so that was the whole thing. So I heard a teaser for the song a couple of weeks ago, and I will admit, I was a little hesitant when I heard it. Not that I thought it sounded terrible or anything like that, but it just didn't grab me or excite me. I wasn't like, ooh, this sounds interesting, but I knew I was going to check it out anyways. But I am happy to report that my expectations have been exceeded. This was a lot better than I was anticipating. There's some really good energy to start everything off, and it actually works its way really nicely through the entire track. It's pretty consistent, so that's really good to have. It's not super fast, but there's a lot of life here at the very least, so I'm having fun with it from the word go. Despite the song having what I feel to be a very sexually driven message, and if you can read through some of the lyrics, I'm pretty sure you'll probably agree with me. The verses actually have somewhat of a darker feeling to them, and a lot of that comes to the guitar work as well. It has a very minor feeling to it, but I still think it works very well because then that changes up in the chorus where it becomes a lot more positive, or I guess major chords and everything like that. It feels a lot more warmer and uplifting, so I kind of like the contrast that we have. The vocal delivery in this entire song is fantastic too. Joe Talbot still has that really fun, charismatic energy about him. I love his vocal presentation, and I think he's gotten better at singing too. I'm not going to necessarily say he was a terrible singer before or anything like that. His voice has always suited the genre, but something about it here is just so much cleaner, and just the presentation's really nice on it too. The energy and charisma are there, on display tenfold. So I don't know, something about this feels so much better than previous albums. Overall, this one's a lot of fun though. I am excited for the new album, and I will definitely be checking out other singles as they come out. I will review them here on the NMR because I'm just that excited for it. So yeah, I like this one, and I hope you do too, and I can only hope that the rest of the album is just as fun, if not better. Second up on the list, Canadian rock legends, the Tragically Hip, another band that we've actually covered on the show before. They aren't necessarily back per se, considering that, frontman Gord Downey unfortunately passed away in 2017. 6 years ago as of October 17th, so by the time this video comes out, it's pretty recent to that, so that's pretty crazy to think about. But they are releasing new, or at least unreleased, tracks from their 1998 album Phantom Power, and they've hinted that there's upwards of 5 of them going to be released. So the one that I'm looking at today that actually popped up on my Spotify release radar is Mystery. At the point where I am now, being able to look back on this track, I can easily say I can see why this one was left off the original album. It's a pretty straightforward, kind of quieter, acoustic ballady kind of track. And in comparison to some of their other acoustic tracks, this one doesn't really stand out too much. It's very minimal, very quiet. There's not a lot of life to it. It feels like a more somber ballad. So, you're not expecting too much from it, but at the same time, there's just really not enough going on here to grab me. It does have a pleasant flow to it though, so I can give it that. It's really peaceful with no surprises, as I've kind of already hinted at anyways. The overall entire track feels very melancholy, so don't expect too much from it. The guitar work is really nice. There's two different guitars going left and right, and they kind of sound a little off time with each other, but I kind of like that kind of raw, off the floor feeling to it. It does feel a little more like passionate and personal in that way. But again, there's like just not a lot grabbing me about the instrumentals in this one, so I don't know what else to say about it. It runs very similar all the way through. There's nothing that really changes the song except for like verse, chorus, but even then it's still kind of the same. You could tune in at any point in this song and not know where you are in it. The beginning, the end, somewhere in the middle, like you wouldn't know which verse is which because it's just all the same. So that could be kind of detrimental, especially if you're like anticipating literally anything. Overall, I'll say it's okay. It's nothing special. I didn't hate the track. There's just nothing about it that makes me want to come back to it, and then once again, I can see why they left this on the floor. But I will say I can imagine that Hip fans will just be stoked at the idea of getting any sort of quote-unquote new material at this point, considering the band is done. So if that's you, then I'm pretty sure you'll dig this and just appreciate it for being something that you haven't heard before, especially from the older works. So yeah, check it out, why not? And finally today on the show, we have the band Health, who I know I've covered at least once before on the New Music Review, but it's been quite a while, and they got a new album on the way. Health is an industrial and electronic rock band out of Los Angeles, California, and as I said, they had just revealed that they have a new album coming out this December called Rat Wars, and the first single, actually there's technically 3 singles they've released, but I've heard one of them a while ago. The other one didn't pop up on my release radar, but this one did, and this one is called Sicko, quote-unquote featuring Godflesh. I'll pick up right from that quote-unquote right there, because it's not technically featuring Godflesh. It is using sample of their song Like Rats, so you hear some of that, but there's no like musician in the studio with them doing these parts, so that's why I said kind of featuring, you know, but the song title itself says featuring, so I just go with that. Now, I know Health has some heavier tracks and everything like that, and they do incorporate that into their sound. I feel like this one's a lot heavier than you would expect from Health, considering they're mainly synth-driven. There's definitely guitars in this one, and another one of the singles too, called Children of Sorrow, is very guitar-driven as well. That's fine. I mean, like, these ones just have like a heavier but slow industrial metal guitar riff kind of just going through the entire thing, that layered with the synths and like this absolutely crushing drum machine. It's pretty damn heavy. So yeah, like, maybe it's a mistake to say it's heavier than other tracks. I don't know. It just felt heavier than usual. That was a long-winded point just for me to say it's heavy. The vocals are as atmospheric as you would expect out of a Health project, so there is that kind of chill atmosphere drifting atop of the very punishing soundscape. The song cuts off pretty abruptly too, which leads me to believe that, you know, depending on the placement in the album, something ties in perfectly with this one, but I don't know, we won't know that until December, unfortunately. And the song's under 3 minutes, so it doesn't take that long to get through too, so quite the single to be pushing out there. You don't get a ton from this one, but it is still pretty energetic. It's still pretty intense. It's worth the time to check out. On that note, overall, it is a decent track. I enjoy it. It's probably not one of the best offerings that I've heard from Health, even from this new record, because there's technically an EP of 3 new songs that are going to be on the new record, and it is called Children of Sorrow. Not my favorite from the bunch, but you know what? It's still not that bad. That's fine. It's still pretty good, though, and I'm looking forward to the album, so we'll see what happens when December rolls around. And that is all I have for the New Music Review today, so thank you very much for joining me and checking out these songs if you indeed did. And if you did, make sure you let me know what you think of it down in the comments below, because I'm always curious to know your opinions. I give you mine. I want to hear yours. That comment section down there is for you to do just that. It's just that easy. So yeah, why not go ahead and do that? It just helps everything move right along. You know what else you could do to support us, though? Go to ratetherecord.ca, because there's a lot you could do over there to help support us. All of our streaming links over there, so wherever you want to follow the podcast, you can definitely find it there, be it through video or audio. I mean, video, YouTube is the only place you're going to find it, but plenty of audio links. Go check that out. There's also plenty of social media links if you want to follow us on our social medias as well, so that'd be really greatly appreciated, and you could just kind of like join in there and hang out with us and Look at all the weird stuff that we always post. You can also buy merch. That's over there too. Request an album for us to do on the show. And of course, the RTR Club if you're feeling financially kind enough to want to support the show that way. Plenty of free options, one paid option, but regardless, it's all good. Find it all at ratetherecord.ca, and yeah, maybe you'll stick around. And speaking of the podcast, I already mentioned, yes, the Rate the Record podcast. That's kind of what this channel is. And I already told you what we did this past Monday, but I'll say it once again, that we did the band Idols and their album Joy as an Act of Resistance. Again, I picked that album a long time ago, put it in the list, not expecting the new song to drop, not expecting a new album announcement, but it worked out so perfectly, and I was so happy to do it. So why the hell not? But go check out the episode though, because it's one of those ones that I really liked, but Savannah hadn't heard before. So what did she think about it? What did we think about it collectively? And what do you think about it? That's even more important to us. So go ahead, check that out, and yeah, let us know. No, why not? What you think about it? I'm at the end now because I'm starting to stutter a lot, and that's fine because I have nothing else to say. So one more time, thank you very much for hanging out with me. Thank you very much for checking out the music and letting me know what you thought about it. And we'll see you again for the podcast. Apparently not next week. I should say no podcast next week because of Savannah being sick. It kind of cut back our recording this week. We won't have an episode, but we'll have something else out. Don't worry. Maybe 2 NMRs. That's fine. But it'll be back in 2 weeks. Podcast back in 2 weeks. Don't worry about it. So until we see you then, go listen to some awesome music. Take care, friends.